place that I've dreamed of, where I can free my mind. I hear the sounds of the season and lose all sense of time. Feels like we're in a dream, you know what I mean.
Right there, Camp McIntosh.
Yes, you are, Mike. You are correct. That is Camp McIntosh, and of course, we are looking forward to it and our CFN retreat up at Horwood Lake Lodge. Of course, in chronological order, we will be at Horwood Lake Lodge 17th to the 22nd. I am hoping we don't have an announcement of some available spaces, but I'm sure there are some folks within our community that might be looking forward to the possibility of some open spots. We will get you that information at some point. If, in fact, those spots are open, we are waiting for someone to make a decision. But as I said, as it is right now, August 17th to the 22nd, we will be at Horwood Lake Lodge. As it is right now, it is completely sold out until I hear otherwise. If, in fact, it is not, there might be 2 spots available. But so stay tuned. We will let you know more. And then, of course, in the wonderful month of September, from the 23rd to the 27th, we will be at Camp McIntosh. We have lots of spots available there, so please get a hold of Andre and Tracy. Those are all the means in which you need to know to get to know the owners and get your butt booked in a bed. It's a great fishery. It's just a great time. That's the best way to describe it, and we're looking forward to sharing that time with you folks. Well, hello, and we made it to Facebook. I can't believe it. I don't know what the heck happened last week. Sorry for all, and you know what was amazing is how adaptive you folks were. You know, it went down. I was seeing, a rally cry. Folks were saying it's over on YouTube, sharing the links back and forth. And at the end of the day, it meant a lot. It meant a lot, just not to me, but of course, our panel, to see the dedication that you folks have to what we do here every Monday. And this Monday is going to be no different than any other Monday. It is jam-packed full of information. We got lots to talk about, lots to discuss. So we will get to it ASAP. Lloyd, as always, my friend, thanks so much. Tip of the hat to you for all the sharing you do. Stephen, same as well to you, my friend. Gary's in the house. How you doing, Gary? Nice to have you along. James is here. Got a bite. Yes, you do. Yes, they do. Eve's, hey, I saw, Eve, that you were out this past week or weekend. Looks like catfish were on the menu. Looked awesome to see. There is my right-hand man, my one and only Steve Shawsome. How you doing, pal? Nice to see you, and thanks again for all you do for our community. What's up, Jeremy? Nice to have you along, my friend. You are becoming a very active member in our community. We appreciate that, all the sharing that you guys do. It can't be said enough. Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And it's nice to see new members, and I can speak on behalf of Steve and Walt, who are very, very busy, always doing edits and trying to do what we can to pump the tires of our community. It means a lot when, sort of that workload is taken off our backs, taken off our hands from our community. And Jeremy, you have stepped up in a huge way. So tip of the hat to you. Sparkus, what's going on, Val? Nice to have you with us. Yes, it has been a while. Absolutely. Looking forward to some of your content this season as well. This man has been extremely busy and was pretty proud of himself. He did an unboxing of our latest sponsor, which is Catch and Cook. Nice to see some of the stuff that you unveiled, and we are looking forward to some upcoming recipes. Between you and Terry, I knew as soon as we got the mother load from Catch and Cook, you and Terry, I had to make sure that I got it in your hands first, because I knew you two would be very busy making some delicious dishes, and you certainly haven't disappointed, you two. So thanks so much for that. Jeremy's in the house. How you doing, pal? Smelt season, how's it going for you? Are you loaded with smelt? Are you even able to get out in the rivers? That is something that Jay Barnucz and I are going to be talking about shortly, upcoming. There's nothing funny about it. If you live in the Muskoka area right now and anywhere close to a river, it is something that folks are dealing with, and it's not fun. So we will be getting to that. Pete, how you doing, my friend? Always nice to have you along. Hoping you're staying dry up where you are. James is in the house. Nice to have you along as well. Sonia, yeah, baby. What's going on, Sonia? How you doing? Yeah, a girl. Nice to have you along as well. And there is my left-hand man, Danny Bacon of the North. Nice to have you. Yeah, you know what? I got my hair cut, Danny. That's what it was. It doesn't fit if I grow hair, so I got to cut all my hair in order for this to grow. So that is your key. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If I've got this on, it's because I just got my hair done. Yeah, baby. Jeremy, yeah. Well, I love the family CS, whether it's Monday shows or the posts. We are all here at bring each. That's absolutely right, Jeremy. Well said. Good. So, with that, we do have a bunch of announcements. So let me get to that because we haven't seen Big Jim show up just yet. Not 100% sure if he is. He's been a busy lad today, but hopefully we will get to him shortly. Congratulations again to Patrick Perot. You have quite a prize pack for the first fish of 2026 contest that we just ran. We ran it every week, and you CFNers did an absolutely fantastic job keeping it alive. And how you kept it alive is every time we posted on a Thursday, if we had a new fish pick posted in the comments, it went on for another week and then another week. And the more pictures and photos, and it was incredible. The results of this contest were actually quite amazing. And Patrick, you are reaping in the rewards and benefits of what was a really cool concept that we're definitely going to be inheriting for next year. But you have got yourself quite a little prize pack, and it's courtesy of Shimano. Of course, you're going to get a Mirville reel, but also all of the made in Canada tackle suppliers. There's a plethora of stuff from Ugly Boys, and as you saw, all of the logos. There's a lot to be had. So we're looking forward to giving that out. Be patient. It's all packed together. We will get to it. I promise you. As we mentioned, Danny and my good pal Danny and myself, we mentioned this last week. There is big news coming out of the North Channel Walleye Open. The details have just been shared, so I don't have the uploaded graphic. So I'm going to keep you on the edge of your seats because I want you guys to really listen up to this, because it was something that was going to be centered to a certain area. 2 zones, I believe, 10 and 14 is what we were limiting into. There is a good chance it might be opened up a little bit more, and maybe even a little bit more after that. Anyway, it is a great online walleye tournament. They are going to be separate weeks that it is going to be held. It's easy to enter. It's Fish Donkey that is the app that runs it. We're really excited and looking forward to it. And of course, all of any of the proceeds that the NCAA is able to bring into this after we're done with all the prizing and this, that, and everything else are going to go towards the tournament. So we're now going to be able to give back to those who participate in our NCAA up in the Spanish River. And we're really looking forward to yet another year of a lot of fun, a lot of big walleye, and some good food. So stay tuned to that. Big news is still coming, but Danny and I unveiled that last week on the Power Hour, and yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool. With that being said, of course, there is another announcement that we're just on the brink of announcing. It is the Comp Rate Conquer Challenge. It's a multi-species event, very much like the CFN Fish Off. This, I would have to say, Shimano has even more hands in the kitchen when it comes to this. I know Bob is working on getting graphics together. This is something that I just came up with. So this is not the graphic. We are coming up with something, but it's a multi-species event. It is going to run May 2-4 to Canada Day long weekend. And people are going to say, well, is this replacing the CFN Fish Off? The answer to that is no, it isn't. And you will see during Jay's segment how it's not. This is just on top of the CFN Fish Off. Guys, at the end of the day, it is our MO around here to get folks fishing, get Canada fishing. And we are doing our darndest to do that, to make these opportunities available for folks that want to keep it sort of on the down low. They want to keep it personally, don't want to share their spots, but they also love the aspect of competitive fishing. They just want to do it on their own. So we're bringing this aspect to you. So if you have a cottage, if you have a boys' weekend, if you go away on a fishing trip, and you want to compete in something while you're on that trip, just to add to the excitement of being there, CFN is going above and beyond to making sure that that takes place. And of course, we can't do it without the good folks at Shimano. So they're going to be offering up some great prize packs. They are coming out with a new line of compre. It is going to be geared towards the multi-species event, and hence the reason it is called the Compre Conquer Challenge. So more details to come in regards to that. We're looking forward to providing you anglers some really cool and different ideas going forward for 2026. So all we need to do is have Mother Nature get on board, warm up the temperatures, get rid of all the ice, because as we know, it may not be obvious to us down here in the south, but if you live up in the north part of Ontario or even out west, there are areas that are still well covered with over 20 inches of ice. So keeping that in mind, Mother Nature, can you take a hint? Can you hurry up? Can you get your crap together? Because we got some stuff that we got to unveil. We got some stuff that we got to get going on. And CFN is chomping at the bit, as well as all of our anglers in doing so. I was hoping that Jim might be with us at this point. So without further ado, we will bring it to Lawrence right after a word from our sponsor.
What is Flash Boost? Shimano designed innovative Flash Boost technology. It keeps flashing, which attracts fish whether in a pause or while retrieving. The mirror plate, which is fixed by a spring inside the body, vibrates with the lure action to generate diffuse reflection. Even if you stop the lure action, the inner plate will move and continue to flash, giving the lure a sense of life and inviting a fish bite. This is Flash Boost.
This is Lawrence T. Gunther. I know I'm not supposed to say that. I love how that goes. Lawrence T. Gunther.
There's no T. Where are you getting the T from?
I am top notch, top shelf. I mean, fill in the blanks, my friend. We missed you last week, but of course, you know, we managed to get through a Monday without you. But it's awesome to have you back, and I know we've got lots to talk about. So welcome back.
We do, buddy. Last week was a busy week. We had to get the news out, and then we had a important standing committee on fisheries and oceans to attend with a whole bunch of our friends from British Columbia. So we can get to that too.
Well, you know, maybe that's what we should start off with, unless you want to start somewhere else. It was actually a segment. It was a video that I believe Global News put on. I didn't want to share it because I didn't know where you were in regards to knowing about it, so I didn't want to catch you off guard. But it seems as if there is a little bit of a battle brewing between recreational anglers and First Nations and commercial fisheries. That just, it seems to be an ongoing battle that we've heard and you've explained to great length, but it's starting to heat up a little bit. I know you're going to explain why.
Yeah. Are you going to show that video?
I won't. And the only reason is I didn't upload it. As I said, I didn't know if you knew anything about it, so I didn't want to catch you off guard.
I would just say this, Scotty. You know, if you look at all the announcements, all the statements that are coming out of British Columbia, the marine recreational fishing, the inshore fishing, you know, the freshwater fishing, all the 690,000 licensed anglers and their organizations. I can't speak on behalf of everyone, but the organizations that represent recreational anglers out there, and there's a bunch of them: the Sport Fishing Institute of British Columbia, Public Fishery Alliance, BC Wildlife Federation. None of them are pointing fingers at Indigenous people. They're all saying, hey, we don't feel and we don't want and we don't think, you know, it's our responsibility or right or to try to muscle our way, you know, into areas where they have a clear right, you know, and they have a right. The food, ceremonial and social fishery is first and foremost. You know, if they have to start shutting things down for conservation, that's the last thing standing before that, you know, DFO takes a decision to shut that down too. But that's the last thing. The second last thing is recreational fishing, and the third thing in the row is commercial fishing, and that's DFO policy. That's DFO policy, and also what they're saying is, stick to the policy. Stick to the policy.
Yeah, it's so true. And Luke came to your defense and said it's impossible to get Lawrence off guard. You're 100% right, Luke, and I should have been prepared for that. But I will say this: after hearing the video, and of course, folks have to remain somewhat neutral. It's tough. It's tough to take a stance, even though we are very critical of how news is shared to us Canadians, and I don't even want to get into that. But at the end of the day, I think that the underlying theme that I would love to see generated is there's got to be a balance. I think everybody understands the pecking order. Where listen, if you're an angler and you're as knowledgeable as we are in regards to how things have gotten to where we are right now, we understand the pecking order. I guess what I get upset with sometimes is it's always thrown in our face. But in this case, at the end of the day, we have to find some common ground, because if it goes to the extreme, is it possible that some recreational angling in some areas could be abolished?
Well, okay, you got to understand, in British Columbia, there's no treaties, right? We have treaties in Ontario. There's many treaties that were signed with First Nations communities hundreds of years ago. None were ever signed in British Columbia. That's to the best of my knowledge. So they're working on treaties. They're working on figuring this stuff out. Whose territory is whose territory covers what territory. How does that impact on people on those territories when these decisions are being made? What are the rulings coming out of the courts? We see this in the news all the time, right? What we don't see maybe is the fact that there's a lot of communities, Indigenous communities, that are saying, hey, hey neighbor, you just put a map out and you claiming some of our territory, and in reality, that part of that bay and that shoreline and that part of that ocean or that river is our traditional land. So that's all got to get sorted out too, right? And that's causing some friction between the communities as well. And then you add on top of that this land back movement of the whole idea of Indigenous-led conserved and protected areas. So the government of Canada decided some 10 years ago that by 2030, 30% of our land and 30% of our oceans and water would be considered sort of a conservation areas, sort of somewhat protected. And what that means, there's a basic starting point. It doesn't mean no fishing, no hunting, but it would be decided by local committees made up of stakeholders in those areas once those areas have been identified. And at the beginning, Parks Canada had the role of identifying those areas. And then Indigenous communities said, you know what, we should have a say in that too, because a lot of that land is our territory, and we'd like to see our territory conserved and protected. So they came up with an alternative approach to reaching those 30% of Canada by 2030 by these Indigenous conserved and protected areas. And what does that mean for fishing? What does that mean for hunting? For tourism, for access, those are questions that get answered once these have been established, and those committees, those local committees have been established, and then they work out the details, right? And there's some gray area there right now. There's some, worry that maybe the fishing could be limited, the hunting could be limited. Is it commercial fishing? Is it recreational fishing? Is it areas? Is it types of fishing? Is it where you can go, when you can go, on top of already seasons and things like that? So that's adding some more sort of that's into the mix now as well.
It's true, and I will say, this is it's a very controversial issue, salmon fishing out in BC, and we celebrated here on live because I think we brought to light the importance of what was being done with that pen culture, the cage culture at the mouths of a lot of the migrating salmon. We eliminated that. We got rid of that, and we didn't even have time to celebrate it, and now we're fighting about who gets what and when. is this, just to take a step back and make more of a broad view at this, is this been an ongoing fight that has been going on for a long time and it's now just coming to a head, or is something, did something spawn this? Like what brought this on?
Well, go back 150 years, and indigenous people controlled the salmon harvest at the river mouths and at the start of the rivers through a system of weirs that can be dated back hundreds and hundreds of years, where they would create sort of traps where the fish would swim up, be directed into holding ponds, and then the indigenous people would go in and select the fish they want to keep and release the rest to continue their journey up the river. And then we came along and said, no more, you got to take all those down. They all have to come down, and we will give you nets instead. You will fish with nets. And so they had no choice. All the weirs came down, and they were eventually given some old nets. I've talked to some indigenous leaders who said the nets they were given were pretty rough shape, and they started fishing alongside other fishers, and then eventually licenses were handed out for commercial fishing and sold. It became more of a, getting into boats, no more nets in the rivers, because that proved to be problematic with the spawns. So now the fishing had to be done out at sea. And because we had the collapse of the fisheries in the 1920s on the West Coast, because of all the canneries and all the netting that was taking place at the mouths of these rivers. So that had to change. And then you saw a domination of that commercial fishery by non-indigenous people. Mm-hmm. And then we saw the downturn in salmon stocks, and we had to reduce the amount of fishing pressure on the coast because there just wasn't enough salmon. So the government of Canada started doing buybacks on licenses. And they bought back the boats, they bought back the licenses, they allowed people to retire with some money in their pocket and exit the industry. And then some of those nets and boats and licenses were handed over to indigenous people so they could get into the game a bit and start making some money for the first time in a long time. Mm-hmm. And they're now, like, if it's not for that one billionaire out on the West Coast that controls over 50% of the commercial fishing on the West Coast of Canada and most of the bigger ships, the seiners, it's a lot of it is indigenous commercial fishing now.
Interesting. And at the end of it, or I guess within it, that is really I would say overshadowed with all of this fighting that's going on. Of course, we have concerns with the salmon fishery. It's mm-hmm. certainly not like it was back in the day when you talked about all the canning that was going on out of the West Coast. And I hope we don't have to get back to how bad it was then. But certainly now, I mean, we have runs that are concerning. We hear mm-hmm. about water temperatures warming and Mother Nature not cooperating when it comes to making these runs conducive enough for salmon to run up. But now on top of this, we're fighting who's entitled to what. And at the end of the day, it seems the recreational angler, at least in this case, is left in the dust.
Not yet. But there's some concern. There's some concerns for sure. And I listened to the Sports Fishing Institute, the Public Fishery Alliance, the BC Wildlife Federation. They had representatives, their leaders in Ottawa. The government of Canada flew them in to present to the Standing Committee on Fisheries and Oceans. And this is a bipartisan committee made up of members from each political party. And not necessarily dominated by the Liberals, because the Liberals were in a minority when these committees were struck. So they're not in a majority on these committees. Mm-hmm. They're chaired by a Liberal, but the committees have equal representation. So the questions from these committees to these presenters were really interesting. If you didn't know who was a Liberal, who was a Conservative, who was a Bloc, you might not even know, by their questions. If you couldn't identify them, you wouldn't know by their questioning whose party they were on. The questions were all they were excellent questions. They were all concerned about the fishery, the recreational fishery. And I would say the presenters were excellent too. They talked about this being an epic economic situation here. You're talking about over 9,000 jobs, over $1.3 billion in economic activity, associated with salmon fishing by the recreational angling community. You're talking about the social and economic sustainability of coastal communities, talking about a way of life, about generations and generations of people. You're talking about all the small businesses that are spoke from the fishery. The fishing is the hub, but then you look at all the industries that rely on that: tourism, hotels, restaurants, fishing shops, outfitters, lodges, all of that rely on, that are built around these fisheries. And now their big issues. They had some real good suggestions that they wanted the standing committee to take to UFO and get some answers for them. And yeah, so anyways.
And shouldn't it be that way? Should it not be nonpartisan? Like, at the end of the day, I want to say that, there aren't very many topics that we could talk about in Canada right now that don't have some political connotations along with it. Obviously, sports and fishing, I thought too. And it's refreshing to hear that there is no political agenda here, that the fish and the tradition, if you will, is at the forefront, and maintaining that is of utmost importance. So I'm glad to hear that we are not having political agendas pushed. At the end of the day, my biggest concern, of course, with everything that's going on, is, are we getting the right information? That global news article piece that we've spoken about, very general. I would say it was a broad swath of what was going on. Certainly pitted First Nations against recreational anglers. They didn't even talk about the commercial aspect, but it was Indigenous commercial angling and recreational angling, and basically how they're currently butting heads. With that being said, obviously there's got to be some common ground, and I'm hoping, regardless of it not having any political connotations, that the political people that are in power are going to be able to navigate this so that the stakeholders are getting heard, the First Nations are getting heard, even the commercial, even though it's a billionaire that runs that consortium out there. Hopefully he has a certain voice as well. But at the end of the day, what's at stake?
Yeah, what's at stake? It's a way of life, but it's a way of life, and it's an economy. And I think the representatives that came from British Columbia understand that in Ottawa today, it's about jobs, it's about the economy, it's about ensuring our future, and it's about looking for new markets, it's about attracting investment. And for all of that to take place, you need certainty. You can't have unpredictability. And this was one of the major points put forward by the representatives from British Columbia. They said, for a number of years now, every season is determined at the last minute. And the questions were, well, how does that affect recreational fishing? They said most people make their mind on where they want to go fishing the year before or 2 years before. They plan their fishing trips a year in advance. Often they're booking the day they're leaving, and they're saying, I'm back next year at the same time, just like you do, Scotty, with your events every summer. It's booked. You start booking the minute the other event ends, and people are booking up already at that point. The same on the West Coast, same in any great fishery. People book years in advance so they don't want to be part of it. If you can't say our fishery is going to be open at this time, you can't in good faith take their deposits. As a lodge, as an operator, you can't say, hey, send in your deposit and we'll see if you can come fishing. We'll let you know when we know. People are going to say, well, I'm not going to send you to my deposit and not be able to book my hotel and my airfare, get best rates and make this a part of my plan, only to find it all falls through. I'm going to go somewhere where it's not going to fall through, where I can be guaranteed I'm going fishing. Right. And if it's not BC, well, I'll find somewhere else to go. Right. So that's a huge deterrent, this unpredictability. And it was underscored over and over again. And I would say every member of that standing committee understood that, the unpredictability, and how that goes totally against the sustainability of a business. All businesses, they can't function without predictability. And there's the BC representative said, and they went out and outlined a number of ways to improve the predictability.
Right. So, Steve, and I appreciate this comment because it is true. It's basically what we talked about, Steve, before we went live. The recreational anglers seem to take it, or always seem to take it, on the chin. So, when we're asking about the three parties that are involved here, I don't believe that recreational anglers, based on the arguments that I have heard, are asking for any more than status quo.
They are asking for DFO to follow their policies. And this point was made over and over and over again. DFO has policies. Why are they not following their policies? So this is that whole allocation question. A lot of people are trying to wrap their head around what that means. And, who gets what fish? When the fish are running, who gets the fish for them? Who gets what quantity? And right now, like we said, it's the social, ceremonial, and fishery for indigenous people. And food, and then the recreational fishery comes next, and then the commercial fishery comes third. And the DFO is saying, well, you know what? We might just put the recreational fishery with the commercial fishery, so you go fishing when they go fishing. It'll just make it easier for everybody. But BC's the recreational community said that's not going to work. That's not going to work because you only unleash the commercial fisheries when you've identified a stock that's coming through and that you've checked the what's in that stock. Are they safe to harvest? Are they at risk fish? You don't want to be having commercial fisheries scooping up a whole bunch of at risk fish. You want them scooping up fish where their numbers are significant. So we saw this last summer. They were predicting, I think, 1.9 million sockeye, I believe, were coming back. It ended up being 9.3 million sockeye came back. And it wasn't until, well into the return of that fishery and they started running up the river that DFO finally said, okay, you go fishing. You guys can go fishing. And they opened up the commercial and the recreational fishing at the same time. Well, with no warning. No opportunity to plan. How can you get a whole bunch of people to come and go fishing? How are they going to bring their boats up to the Fraser River, from the island, from northern BC? They're going to come down here with 1 day's notice and fish, now? You can do that with a commercial fisher when you got your crew and their boat, and they can just say, okay, stay tuned, stand by. But if you're talking a whole bunch of people and they got to plan their vacations, book time off work, and all of that, that's not gonna work, right? So they said the amount of lost opportunity just with the dithering of making that decision to open up that fishery in a timely manner costs the economy millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Jeez. And really, at the end of the day, do we want these parties in close proximity on, in certain areas?
They fish together all the time. It's the issue is not, if you let them fish and let them sort it out, things go a lot smoother. It's when you have people that are paralyzed who can't make these decisions in a timely manner or is afraid to make these decisions because they might hurt someone's feelings, or because they're being pressured and they don't want to have a political situation on their hands, so they don't know what to do because they don't want the publicity. Then, it works so much better when people just are allowed to say, okay, everyone, let's sit down, let's figure this out. We got fish coming up the river. There's going to be a big movement of fish coming in here in the next little while. Or this river, we know we've got good solid returns every year. We've seen it over the last number of years. And this is another point the BC representatives made. There is decades and decades of data showing which fish come where and when, and they know which fish are ready to fish and which stocks are healthy. So those fishing opportunities, they should be made public and nailed down years in advance, like the year before, so outfitters can book their trips, book their charters, and everyone can, advertise and get their people to come. When it's happening every year, then why are these decisions being left to the last minute like they are now?
So again, we have a great individual, Cliff Moores, who's out on the West Coast. He has Cliff's Chinook charters, and if I'm a charter company, if I'm a charter captain, how am I conducting my business? How is any of that working?
It's brutal. It's brutal. You think you might as well just exit, because if you can't pick up your tools until someone says you can pick up your tools, and it never, you never know. You never know. How can you plan your schedule? How can you plan your work schedule? How can you make the loans to get the money to buy the equipment, to hire the people, to fix the boat? How can you do any of that stuff without any level of predictability?
And where do the orcas fall in this list of people?
Well, and that's a good question. And that's something that didn't come up very often. But I'll tell you, there were some interesting studies that were released in the last few weeks about, it turns out these southern resident killer whales are far more mobile than we thought they were. They're moving around a lot. We thought they come up in the summer from the south. They come into the whole area there in southern British Columbia. They stay all summer. They feed on Chinook, and then they head off again in the fall. Turns out they're very mobile. They're coming and going up and down the coast. You never see them, the same place twice. They're very, very unpredictable in that sense. And it turns out the fact that, they say, well, they're not related to the other killer whales. That turns out to be not the same either. There's other killer whales coming into the Salish Sea on a regular basis. They're seeing them now. They're seeing other pods coming into the Salish Sea hunting, and the southern residents hunting in other areas in the north, and so it's not nearly as rigid as we first assumed it was. And they're also finding out that the southern resident killer whales, even though they say they're not related, in reality, they're only not related because they haven't, we just assumed they because they always come here in the summer, and the other ones go to the north. They're not related. They're not even kissing cousins. They're sort of, they hate each other. Turns out that's not the case either. That it's just the fact that they don't see each other that often, but they do see each other, and they are related, and there is some sort of mixing that goes on every so often. So if for the whole argument of saying the southern resident killer whale population is at risk of collapsing, that whole premise is now being questioned, if that's even based in fact or reality.
Jeez. Well, okay, with all that being said, and that was a lot. Holy smokes. Take a breath for a second, because that was a lot of information. And as Richard has said, okay, so it is very difficult to predict what fish are going to be returning where, and in what numbers. So my question then, I guess, is what's next? All right. So this might be one of many committee meetings that have occurred. What's going to come next? What are we looking forward to in terms of a final decision on what happens?
Well, there were some great decisions made in the last few weeks around BC. One is that the government of Canada has committed to tag 90% of the hatchery fish being released in southern British Columbia. So they clip the little adipose fin near the anus, one off, and it doesn't affect the fish at all. But they were shooting for 10% for a long time and barely getting there. And now they're saying, no, this is what the British Columbia recreational fishing community has been saying for a long time. And this is good for everybody. If you clip them all. That way, when you go out with commercial fishing and you get a net full of fish, you're out, long lining for them, trolling, you're out commercial, recreational fishing. You catch one with a clip, it's hatchery fish. That's a harvestable fish. It's not clipped. That's a wild fish. You let it go. You let that wild fish go so it can complete its journey and restore its native wildness to nature and rebuild its wild stocks. So we want the wild stocks to rebuild because they have the unique DNA that's suited to each little creek, and each little part of each tributary of each main river has a slightly different variant of DNA going up that creek that returns every year. It's important that that variety is kept alive and isn't affected. So by having a selected mark fishery, you allow the fishing to take place using a put and take type fishery model, hatchery fish, and you allow the wild fish to be returned to complete their life journey. And the BC Federation's been saying this, let's get this. We need this badly. And now the government is committed to do it.
As wonderful as all that is, and I know if Jay were here, he'd probably agree. Under no circumstance, not for a second, would I have ever thought we would be going down the road of a put and take fishery in BC.
Yeah. Well, we've been putting them in by the bucket loads for years. We just didn't know which ones they were, right?
But
like, how do you know?
To think that if you are a recreational angler and you're going to go out, or maybe you're a charter captain and you're taking your clients out, that the only fish that you're going to be able to take back to the dock is a clip fin.
Maybe. It depends where. Like if you know you're fishing in an area where there's an opportunity where you might have a chance of catching some at-risk stocks, now instead of just saying, okay, no one's going to fish here because we have some at-risk fish stocks moving through this area during this time of the year, so no fishing. Now you can have some fishing and do it in a way that makes sure that the fish that are being released, the wild ones, go back healthy. And we know what that takes. There's science being done to make sure fish that are being released go back healthy. Those lessons have to be adopted by the fishing community and the outfitters for sure. But it's possible. It's totally possible. And then but then in other areas where you have healthy runs of wild fish, like in the northern part of British Columbia, you don't need to worry about that. You can just have your fishing as it always is, right? You got fish. They come here every year. The fish stocks are strong. You don't need to worry about harvesting wild fish versus hatchery fish. You could just harvest your 2 fish a day.
Interesting. You are always a wealth of information. And not only that, as Sonia has brought up, everybody suggests that you have a voice for radio. And I say that with all due respect. Your dog is sprawled out on the couch and looks so comfortable right now, out cold, listening to every word that you're saying, and is in a very, very deep sleep. God knows what your dog's thinking of. But really interesting stuff. I know we always look forward to what you're going to bring next. But before we let you go, I'm sure there's a whole whack of stuff that you're working on outside of all this that I'm sure you want to share with us now.
Well, working at the, we got our big grant, our Yamaha Stay Outdoors grant. We're gearing up for that. We got the word we can hire 3 students from Service Canada. They gave us funding for 3 students this year. We're very pleased about that. But, we're watching the water levels here in Eastern Ontario, West Quebec. The Ottawa River is reaching 2019 heights, and that 2019 was a bad year. 2017 was a really bad year. 2019 is a bad year. We're getting close to 2019 heights of the river. There's flooding up and down the Ottawa River in Ottawa and Gatineau. And now I just found out too in Fort Collonge, which is the nearest community to our off-grid youth exploration center and research station, and that's the Collonge River, and the Collonge River flows right by our research station. But I think we're going to be okay but the lake that we're on flows into another lake, which flows into the Collonge River down from us. So, I think that our lake is going to be okay. I don't think that fluctuates too much, but we'll find out this weekend when we go up there and have a look. Now that we can get in, that the snow is finally melting. There's still ice on the lake, but it's drivable now anyway, so we'll go and check it out. And but Fort Collonge, the community issued an emergency notice yesterday that they're under flood.
Well, definitely knocking on wood, crossing fingers and toes, hoping for the best, and hoping that when you come back Monday, you're not full of tears and sorrow and what have you. And I certainly don't want to make light of any of that, because of what is currently going on with the high waters is deeply concerning. We can only hope that Mother Nature warms things up and listens to us tonight. Let's get on it. Let's clean things up. So to sum everything up, just before we let you go, Steve, of course, brought up a great question. Wonder what the balance is between wild and stock, and Mikey is suggesting, are they going to stop the bears from fishing? At the end of the day, I think the theme in all this is trying to find a balance. There's got to be a balance that's going to have not only work for the recreational anglers, First Nations, and of course commercial, but the wildlife and the salmon itself. 'Cause again, if we don't find this balance, I would hate to hear that we're not having a natural return to some of these rivers, and we are solely depending on a put and take fishery out in BC. That would be catastrophic.
Well, the first thing when there's a run, they make sure enough wild fish get through to sustain the population, and they know how many fish can that the river body, the river and all its tributaries, how many actual spawning fish they can hold, because at some point there's only so much river to go around. It's like shoreline cottage property, right? There's only so much of it. And once those first fish get there and lay their eggs, and the eggs are fertilized, there's no room for the other fish. So they're sort of just left on the sidelines with little to do other than feed bears and decompose and feed add their bodies to the nutrients of the soil. And so I'm not saying it's a waste, but when you have real abundance, it's not all needed, right? So that's where the scientists know this, and the fishing communities know this. So they say, okay, make sure we get enough going through, and then what's left is ours for the taking.
100%. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you on that note, Steve has already volunteered to be a CFN sandbagger. If you need any of us to fill sandbags.
Oh, man. All right. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, buddy.
We'll jump at the opportunity to help out. And all we can say is hopefully you're going to report back to us next Monday with good news.
That
everything is A-okay.
Well, our watchers in the area, thank goodness, for Facebook, we get hourly reports on what's going on up there, and so far we're looking okay. I think we'll be fine. I always wonder about that river. We've had this property now for going on 3 years, and and the river's there, and you can hear it. You can hear the chutes when the winds calm at night. You can hear the chutes, and it's not far. But there's land between us and the river, but that doesn't mean anything. There's more ways for the water levels to go up, right?
Okay.
And
let's not talk about it. I want to be able to sleep like that dog tonight. So let's not bring it up anymore. Lawrence, as always, my friend, thanks so much for joining us. You are a wealth of information. We truly appreciate everything you bring to our community. You have a great week, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me. And I hope most of what I said is actually correct. And if not, take it with a grain of salt. But I'm doing my best.
Of course. I say that every week with everything I say too, pal. We're on the same boat. Don't worry about that. All the best, my friend. You take care of yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Scotty.
We got Jason Barnucz coming up right after a word from his sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural. Man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
I was just thinking after seeing that, Jay, we've got to update some ads from Berkeley, and I have to say there's a whole whack of products that I know have come to the Berkeley family that we need to showcase. What we need to do is we need to get your son and Christian. We got to get them starting to do promos, and it just makes it a lot easier. So I will make sure to reach out to the lads and get a firecracker thrown under their arse. But in the meantime, we just finished off with, as you know, with Lawrence and the current state of what's going on for those who live close to and adjacent to rivers. It is not a good time, unfortunately, if you are in the Muskokas or really anywhere, as Lawrence alluded to, close to a river.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Like I can't think of one river right now that doesn't have some sort of warning out, and what makes it worse is everything's so saturated that any little amount of rain is just going to bring levels back up again, because the ground is so full of water. It's all in the fields. It's everywhere. So I noticed it today driving into work and back, where all the creeks are high. They're dropping. Everywhere's slowly dropping. But what really hurts a lot of landowners right now is when you deal with, so where to put all the water, right? So whatever water you let out of up here affects someone down here.
Yeah.
So you can help everybody up here by letting more water up, but then you flood everyone down here. So it has to be let go slowly. And in a lot of cases, it can't be, it's too slow, but there's nothing else we can do about it. It's tough, man. It's tough. And this will probably happen for, I'm going to guess a few more, probably at least another couple of weeks before we start to see a reprieve from all that high water. It's crazy.
It is. In Lawrence's segment, we were talking, of course, about the current state of the salmon fishery out in BC. And Jason White, you bring up a great point. And I'd love for you, Jay, because you are the one that is most educated on answering a question like this. But is there any concern with the natural reproducing stock of salmon when we start stocking hatchery raised fish on top of it?
Yeah, Jason White brings up a good point. There's been a lot of research done on this topic. And, as anglers, we're inherently biased. We want to catch as many fish as possible. And there's only so much carrying capacity in these systems. And by promoting natural reproduction, we're promoting the production of the most resistant fish. Okay. The ones that do the best. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about salmonids, salmon and trout, or whether you're talking about bass or walleye. We got to produce the best fish for the system. And systems can only carry so much fish as well, and we don't want to create these unhealthy put and take type fisheries. One, we can't afford it. But two, if we can't sustain fisheries through natural reproduction to have those sort of healthy, natural producing fish, then what happens is they become reliant on put and take. And when that happens, then it's not a short-term solution. It becomes a long-term problem. So
agreed. Now, with the stocking that is on top of the natural recruitment of fish, it obviously it's imperative that whatever fish that you are stocking on top of the existing run is the genetic strain of the existing run. Would that be correct in saying that?
Yeah, that's correct. And a lot of work's been done on that, especially within the Great Lakes with steelhead. All the salmonids in the Great Lakes, except for brook trout and brook trout, lake trout, and Atlantic salmon, everything else is not native to us here. And so everything has come here in the past 150 years, depending on what species you're considering. And they've all come here through introductions from the West Coast. They've all shown to do well here, but they on the West Coast, they all come from different strains. Steelhead is a great example where you have a spring run, you have winter run, you have fall run steelhead. These are all different strains of steelhead that have different life history strategies. What's important to know is, and I'll give you an example. If we only had spring run fish in the Great Lakes, then we would probably only see those fish spawning in the springtime. What's not good about that, Scotty, is that if only fish were spawning in the spring, let's think of a hypothetical River X. River X only has spring run fish.
Yeah.
If you have poor spawning conditions in the spring, you could lose an entire year class of fish because of low water, because of high water, because of hot water. It's too hot, it's too cold. By spreading out that spawning effort across the calendar year, it allows us to have the different fish at the different periods have an opportunity to contribute to that population. And so that's why, and I think steelhead is the best example, because we see, if you're a steelheader, you know that you'll start to see fish ascend rivers in September during the salmon run, but you'll see steelhead move up all winter and even into the spring. And sometimes the spring run fish will only go up to spawn. They might only run up the river for a week or two. They'll spawn and then drop back. And that's an incredible length of time. We're talking 8 months of run fish. And in fact, there used to be even summer run steelhead skamania back. Geez, when was that? In the 90s?
I want to say the 90s. It was big in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, and so those were known to be summer run fish, and so on tributaries of the Great Lakes like the Saugeen and the Sauble, where you have good cold water fisheries, you were seeing skamania runs, but they weren't sustained. They're still, what's cool is these aren't isolated populations. They intermix. These strains do intermix, and you'll still see pictures of fish that come out of these areas that look like skamania. They probably still have genetics of skamania in them. But these strains do produce with each other, and that creates a very viable fishery in a lot of places. But in the end, natural reproduction, because if the fish can reproduce in these systems, then that means those systems are basically built for those fish, and they can come back and contribute healthy populations. But if we just do stocking and we do put and take type fisheries, then we end up having to sustain those. If you look at in the US, especially, like if you read a lot of literature from the Appalachians, where you have these put and take rainbow trout fisheries, like if it wasn't for those state agencies stocking fish, they wouldn't sustain at all, and you wouldn't have these trout fisheries. So we're very fortunate in Ontario to have these natural systems that produce natural fish. We're very lucky to have that.
Amen. Which is a great segue. Of course, we talked about the amount of water that's currently flowing down rivers right now, and Angelo shared this video, and it has me a little concerned, Jay. And of course, you've enlightened to the fact that there is some silver lining in all this, but this has me concerned with the current flow of water. Is this really going to affect the reproductive cycle of these fish that require these rivers to do their thing, or is there another concern that might be something that I'm not thinking of?
I don't think so. When it comes to steelhead, so that example there, Bowmanville Creek, a lot of these Lake Ontario tribs are very small, so these high water peaks, they're very short-lived. So a lot of the rivers have already crested and they're dropping already. And so what you'll see in Bowmanville Creek in a matter of a couple of days, that water in that video there will probably drop to half of what you're seeing. And so now it is tiring for the fish to try and move through that water, but give it a day or two and those fish will make it up to where they're headed. And what's also good too is the high water does something where if you can get high water prior to the spawn, it allows two things. One, the fish can reach areas maybe they couldn't get to in low water years. And a lot of the healthier habitat, the better habitat for spawning is in the headwaters of these systems. So the higher water, it allows, think of it like a conveyor belt. It allows those fish to get up to those areas better. In those areas, when they spawn, the water is a better quality. The substrate's a better quality. So the chance of having survivorship of those young is probably better. And also too, you have what's cool about the high water is that you get a flushing of the system. So, prior to the show, Lawrence talked about these brown water issues. And one of the issues we have in Southern Ontario is turbidity. And we have a lot more siltation happening because of land use. As you have more intensive agriculture, you have more intensive urbanization, you are getting more sediment basically in these systems. So basically this high water can act as a bit of a flushing of the sediment out of these systems. And last year, this could be very well timed right now. Last year we had basically drought conditions right through till Christmas. And people may not remember that, but we had record low water all last summer and all last fall. And so now we're getting water back in the system. Groundwater is recharging, right? So we're going to have more groundwater for fish, and we're going to get a flushing of sediment that probably built up in these systems last year during that low flow. So yeah, it's high water right now, but from a fish's standpoint, it could actually be a great benefit right now. So time will tell how this impacts, but there could be better things that work here. Probably more pros than cons right now, my guess.
You brought up something too before we went live. You were more concerned about water temperature than anything else.
Yeah. So it's not so much for the salmonids because they like the cool water. But one thing that's interesting is now we're getting into spawning for walleye and spawning for even let's say in river smallmouth bass. We're not too far off from those timings. And by this, like we saw snow today. I saw snow the last 2 days. It's not accumulating, but it's snowing.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing these slow increases in water temperature that are a little bit below seasonal. And what might happen for some species is by having cooler water this time of year, they need growing degree days to help basically their young once they hatch. And even for the eggs to mature, right? The warmer the water, the quicker the eggs mature. And the longer, and once they hatch, the longer the growing period we have for the young. And so if we don't get some warmer water at the right time, it could reduce the growing season. And what happens with a reduced growing season is that come next fall or winter, the biggest killer of fish, and this happens with all species, is winter survivorship. So once we have our growing season, who survives to come through the next year? And the biggest thing is those fish, to survive winter, they have to have a good growing season to get of a certain size so that when resources get thin in the wintertime, they can survive till the next year. And so that's what a cool spring can have negative effects on next year's year class, because it affects the growing length of growing season this year, and it affects their survivorship through the winter.
Jeez. God, you're a wealth of information. Jason, I want to also touch on something that he brought here, which is something I did not know. First year spawners spawn on the edge of a river. Virgin spawners, most repeat spawners spawn in the middle of a river. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. And that very well could be. I don't know. I've never read that in a publication, but it's very possible that could happen. So
Cool stuff.
we do know that repeat spawners, and this is for any species, whether we're talking walleye or steelhead or others, repeat spawning fish, especially ones that have had successful spawns, those are good genetics. Mm-hmm. And the value of a repeat spawner, and repeat spawners are typically your larger fish. So we always talk about, let them go, let them grow. Dude, that holds true when it comes to the value of repeat spawners and the importance of those spawning fish to any population.
No, makes total sense. And really, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. So let's hope that Mother Nature does her thing and allows it all to happen. With that being said, of course, our thoughts and prayers are with all those who are struggling right now with current water levels. And if, unfortunately, your property is underwater, we definitely are thinking of you, and hopefully you get the help that you need. And hopefully we don't see any more rain in the near future. One of the things on a happier note I wanted to talk about, Jay, of course, is something that it was an article that you brought up or sent to me this past week, which again, spawns my need to emphasize the importance of what folks like Big Jim have started, which is this notion that we have to get the next generation of anglers interested in fishing. How important it is to have that connection like we had, a father, a grandfather, a mother, it doesn't matter, that took you out fishing, that introduced you to fishing. And as much as it's great to see, I believe it was over in Europe, I think was the article that you sent, there was an uptick in the number of folks that participated at a recent fishing show. And the only thing they can attribute to that spike in attendance was the youth that were coming in and being a part of the show. So with that being said, I'd like to say the Europeans have certainly jumped on board and have seen the benefits and rewards of their hard work. I think maybe we would love to see it, transpire over here. And really, what do we do? Like at this stage, what do we do to really engage that next generation of anglers?
It's a good question, man. I think, well, we promoted a lot on this show, Scotty, and that is, getting them out fishing for one, get them out in the outdoors. I've learned with our kids and their friends, you can't force it on them.
Yep.
You have to want to do it naturally. I use the term organic. It has to be organic. It has to just, they want to do it. And so part of that is don't take them out for the full day. Make sure you go out for the length of time they enjoy. But one thing that helps a lot of us do that is these great youth programs that are out there. And I think that a lot of anglers don't realize, because probably one of the biggest questions I get is, how can I get my kids into fishing, into the outdoors? And people will tell me stories of how when they were young, they went fishing, but now their kids don't want to maybe go fishing, or they don't know, or parents or uncles or grandparents or whoever don't know where to start. And there's so many ways to do that. And I think that, maybe something we don't do enough here is to promote how or where that can happen. Does that make sense?
100%. So we're going to get to that. And that is a great segue to launch what it is we're going to talk about. And Sonia, to your point, they have electronics over in Europe. Again, like as I said, I'm not 100% sure what they did over there. And even they themselves don't understand where it all came from. But this particular fishing show had a huge spike in the numbers of folks that walked through the turnstiles. And a good demographic, or at least a good percentage of the demographic, were young anglers. And I know they were all, sitting there scratching their head, like, where did all these kids coming from? Like, where are they coming from? So to your point, yeah, it might be a problem on our North American shores that, there are too many electronics, too many distractions. I don't disagree with you. But what did they do to get it right over in Europe that they saw such a big spike? So with that being said, I think this is a good segue. Of course, Keep Canada Fishing sponsors a great program that I know after we show this video, Jay, you're going to elaborate on. So have a listen.
When children pick up a fishing rod, a few things happen. They connect with a sense of awe and wonder, and maybe learn a bit about patience and teamwork too. They discover new things about nature and wildlife, build confidence in themselves, and find new ways of respecting the world and the people around them. The Kids, Cops, and Canadian Tire Fishing Days program has introduced children to the great outdoors and helped foster positive relationships for over 20 years. Today, the Canadian National Sport Fishing Foundation works with local organizers and enforcement officers to host grassroots fishing events. Over 250,000 children have participated in Kids and Cops events over the years, and new events are added to the roster every year. For a small donation, you can help place a fishing rod, tackle, and a catch fishing book in the hands of a child, bringing smiles and a lasting dedication to a Canadian heritage activity. To learn how you can support the Kids and Cops Fishing Days program, visit kidsandcops.ca. And thanks for your support.
A great event. It's been going on for how many years now, Jay?
Dude, that is a good question. I think it's been going on for over 20 years.
I thought so as well. I thought it was over. Yeah. I thought it was over 15, but I didn't realize it was that much. That's amazing.
Yeah. It is quite the program. So the Kids and Cops program, it's actually run in conjunction with local police services, so OPP, municipal police, RCMP, wherever these events are happening. The main catalyst is the Canadian Sport Fishing Industry Association. So that is the CSIA is basically our, how should I describe them? They are basically our association where all of the fishing tackle companies, or majority of them in Canada, get together to make sure that fishing remains the way it is, the way we should have it, the way we want to have it. And so one way that the CSIA does that as part of their mandate is they've developed this Kids, Cops, and Canadian Tire Fishing program. And so the sponsors, community sponsors, but especially Canadian Tire being the main corporate sponsor, And if anyone fishes in Ontario or Canada, we know that Canadian Tire is probably, for most towns, it's probably one of your go-to fishing spots to get tackle, right? Let's be honest. There's always fishing tackle at Canadian Tire. Even here in Delhi with our little Canadian Tire, there's a great little corner, and I'll give them credit. The store owners will reach out to me sometimes they can't carry a lot of product, but they'll ask what they should carry locally for our fishery here in the area. So like trout and bass, it's great. And they do their best. And, these events though, and for folks that don't realize this, like some of these events, like they've had literally, they get tens of thousands of dollars. And all you have to do to get access, not to the money, but that money goes into programs for creating these events. And so if you're going to run a kids event, you can sign up or register to be part of the Kids Cops Canadian Tire program. One event I do every year, the Deer Creek Kids Derby here in Norfolk, is the first or second Saturday in August every year. And I think that we've been attending that event for 15 years. And it's great because the OPP comes out, the COs come out from the M&R, and the kids get hats, they get grab bags, they get all kinds of stuff from the program, and then the donations from Canadian Tire and others. And I know that Debbie, who runs our local event, her goal is to make sure everybody walks away with something in that event. And we average 100 kids a year at that one event. So that's not including parents. So you'll get 200 people at that event in a little park. And these events are happening almost every weekend, starting this coming up weekend, right through almost till Labor Day. It's an amazing program. And if you go on I'm trying to think of the website here. So if you go on keepcanadafishing.com, you can access links to that program, and you can register your event. So if you're thinking of holding a kids fishing event and you want to be promoted and endorsed by the Kids Cops and Canadian Tire program, just apply to have your event on there, and they will help you get in touch with your local police services to help promote your event. It's an amazing program. You're not on your own. They will send you like an event package and information. And so if you just want to hold a kids fishing event, but you sort of want to take it to the next level, they provide that for you. It's worth every bit of effort, and it costs nothing. Just apply.
That is so awesome. So with that being said, and of course, this is where we want our audience and anybody who's watching now or in the future, this is your time. This is your 15 minutes of fame. We want you in the comments to shout out whatever kids event that you volunteer, participate in, or have a child that participates in. But we are going to start in chronological order. And I want to say hello to Mark Penner, who just joined us, because he spoke about last week, of course, some of the great stuff that's going down in the St. Catharines Game and Fish Club. And currently right now they have their spring salmon derby that is going on. And there's a youth division. There's a young division that they've set aside so that youth anglers can participate. And I think it's awesome. And we're starting to see some really big fish come to the weigh scales. But that is the first event that I'm aware of, Jay, at least in Ontario. I don't know about the rest of Canada, but Ontario, I don't know of any other events that are geared or at least have an aspect towards young anglers as the St. Catharines Club does.
Yeah, like I'm looking on here. So this is last year's events. There's got to be 30 on this page.
Wow.
And everywhere from, I see Temiskaming, I see Windsor, Hanover, Guelph, Port Colborne, Carleton Place, Tillsonburg. Oh, I didn't realize there's one in Tillsonburg. That's cool. That's just down the road from me.
Yeah.
I got to pay attention. Smiths Falls. Where else we got here? Cornwall, and this is just Ontario. And they start almost now, and they go right through till end of September, man. And
so this is all available on that page, on that web page. You're saying that's
the web page I just sent, man. You can. So what you do is you go on that page, and you can host an event. If you want to host an event, you click on the link, and there's the information. There's an email address and a phone number. You can sponsor an angler. So let's say you have a club and you just want to sponsor an event. You're like, I don't want to host an event. I just want to donate money to this program. So if you have a, let's say, and it doesn't have to be a fishing club. You could have maybe at your work, you have like an employee committee, and you've raised some money at work. Why not donate to this program? It's going right back to the kids in fishing, right? So you could, man, I'm going to talk about that at my work. I didn't realize you could make donations right there. That's awesome.
That is
so
awesome. Holy smokes.
There
Wow.
you go. Sparkus right there, Mitchell's Bay. Exactly. I saw that on the list, man. That's cool.
Yeah, we're breaking ground, Jay. This is what this segment's all about, because we want to bring to light. We want to have the same thing happen here in Canada as we are seeing over in Europe, where there are way more kids running around these shows than adults. And I think it's these events and some of the online tournaments that are going to get these kids, maybe using their electronics. Never mind off their electronics, but using their electronics to enjoy the experience. So, of course, we just saw the St. Catharines group. Coming up next, of course, everybody knows this one. This is Peter Lamar and sorry, I always say his wrong. Lamar, is it Lamond? Larmond. Dear Lord. Peter, my sincerest apologies. I will make up with it by plugging your events. But Peter has a great group of volunteers. This goes on every year, and I do believe that the kids fishing a tournament, this might be the last year for this. I'm not 100% sure, but for the years that it's gone on, it has truly been something special, and a lot of kids out in that area talk highly about that event.
The event I have to mention is now this one isn't part of the CSIA program, but it's coming up this weekend. That's the Under the Lock fishing event. I'm going to put a Facebook link into the chat. And this is the one that goes on in Peterborough every year. And OFA8 sponsors it. It's a wonderful event. And there's all kinds of tagged fish. It's pretty cool. So they have a bunch of tagged fish in the canal, and each tagged fish is worth different prizes. A lot of them are worth cash prizes. There's a tagged fish for $200, and most of the tagged fish are sponsored by a local business in Peterborough area.
Wow.
And they've named the fish. There's Finn Diesel. There's Ellie. There's Shrubby from Shrubby Catering.
Wow.
Oh, so there's a bunch. Listen, and this isn't just for kids. If you want to go make yourself a quick $200, I hope they donate it back to the program. But you can go to Peterborough and try your luck on some quick cash at the Under the Lock. There you go.
And it's a well-attended event. Like, let's be honest, there's a lot of people that go out to that event.
Yeah.
It's cool to see. Thanks, Richard. Of course, in the Arnprior area, there is the Fishing Game Club out in Arnprior that puts on a kids event every year. Sparkus mentioned about Mitchell's Bay. Sonia talked about Tufa. Tufa always does some great things. Our good buddy David Clark and his team always doing great things for all the young folks out there. At Jeremy, as we just mentioned, Peter's events, great stuff that Peter has been doing, and that's a gentleman that's been doing it for a number of years and certainly doing it for the right reasons. Jeremy, awesome to see. Yeah, Peter is top shelf. So
and I think that a lot of folks, all you have to do to help these events sometimes is just share it, promote them on social media.
Amen.
Just share it with your friends, or with people at work.
Yeah.
And the success of these events really comes down to how well they're promoted. And the more people that show up and participate, the better, my opinion.
Awesome.
So
Straight Line Anglers Club Kids Day at 50 Point Conservation. Awesome, with a link, Mark. Well done. That kind of this is exactly what we're hoping for tonight, guys. Yeah. If you have an event that we're not mentioning, that we're not aware of, give us as much information as you can possibly do, because for anybody who is watching, and we can say, with some of the people that talk to us in the inbox, talk to us at the shows, Jay, I know you've been privy to that. They want to know, like, where do I go to find out this information? Well, what?
Even what's great about the way we're doing it tonight, Scotty, is that if you're running an event or know of an event, come back to this post on Facebook next week, next month, post it in the chat.
Amen.
Or if you know someone who wants to go to an event, they can come back to this live episode as well and go through the comments and look at all the different links. Easily do that. So, and we can even update. What, Scott? Maybe on CFN we could do like a post where we just direct people to some of these links, kind of like a featured post on the Facebook page for the summer of just kids events. I think that's wonderful.
I like the way you think, Jay. So chronological order, we just talked about Peter's event. Of course, this is the one and only Sealy's Bay event that our good buddy Steve and myself and a whole host of other volunteers. The big man is, he is the flagship of this and has been doing this for a number of years in Sealy's Bay. It's a great event. Kids come out to the docks. There's lots of prizes that are donated, mostly by the McLaughlins, but I know Steve Shaw and his family donate a bunch of prizes as well. But it's always a great time. You get kids so excited. I mean, it is absolutely amazing to be a part of, to see the excitement that these kids have, the dedication. And of course, it's varying levels, right? Like you have some kids that can't wait to get that next fish to the scales or at least get it registered. And some kids catch one fish, some kids catch 51 fish. But needless to say, the part that I truly like, as you can see in all of these photos, is there's a presence of the adults. The adults are present. And I think that in itself is the most important part of making sure that our kids take an interest and that passion gets passed on, because you as you qualify their excitement. You quantify their what they're doing. And by you saying good job, patting them on the back, showing them how to put a worm on a hook, it means the world. So, don't think your involvement is secondary to their kids' excitement. It's just as important. You have to be a part of the whole process. So, Jim and Tammy, I want to thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. And of course, it's just a great time. And of course, we see some I would say some very prevalent anglers within the bass community, especially, that help out and volunteer for this event. But there's Tammy making sure all the kids get all their gifts. There's a lot of stuff that is given away at this. And then, of course, there's the big man himself. Cool stuff.
Hey, bud, go on share. I'm sharing my screen. I'm going to show you a picture of something.
Okay.
So that's Trevor.
I was just going to say, that's got to be Trevor.
18 months old. That's the Hamilton Harbor Kids Fishing Derby in the summer of August 2008. And that picture, just like, I'm every time I find that picture, I'm speechless. I have it stashed away on my laptop. And like, that's where it started, man. That's where it started right there. Like, he was still in, I think he's still in diapers in that picture, to be honest, like 18 months old. Yeah.
And we all know where Trevor is now. And, so this is it. This is it right here.
Yeah. Right there, man.
Take it all in.
Yeah. And this is where it starts. That's where it starts, right there. So
incredible stuff.
Like, and like, I'm not going to say Steph doesn't like fishing as much, but you can't force them. They love it for different reasons. Stephanie loves the event. She loves the camaraderie. She loves the family. She loves the snacks. She loves all of that stuff. She loves the fishing part, but she loves it all. Trevor has always been a little competitive, so he likes that side of it. I'm not saying he doesn't like the other things, but you got to let kids enjoy it for what they want, and don't make it too hard. And the next thing you know, you could go from bucket hat to I have a monster now, right? So yeah, it can happen quick. It can happen quick.
Absolutely. Sonia, women's groups need to organize something. I don't know how many times I see young girls happy to see women. Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, good call.
Sonia, like the Ontario women anglers, I talked to Alicia Raytrowski. Like, the Raytrowskis are such good friends of ours. Like, they're just like extended family of ours. And Alicia and I talk a lot about the Ontario women anglers, and they run. I say to her all the time, and I say to Yvonne all the time too. And I know so many of the ladies. I am so jealous of the events that they run. They run some really cool events, and well, I can't go. I want to go. Like, it just sounds like so much fun. And they're like, even I met a woman recently. She wanted to go catfishing, didn't have a catfishing rod, so Alicia connected her with me, and she dropped by my office. I'm loaning her a catfish combo for the spring till she can find one for herself. And I'm like, I love helping them out where I can. But a lot of the ladies, like, fishing can be intimidating for a lot of folks, because listen, man, we make it harder than it is. We do. We shouldn't. Like, that is my biggest pet peeve about what we do in the industry. We make it harder than it needs to be. And to have this group out there that tailors to women of all ages and encourages them and builds that camaraderie, it's fantastic. And so I really encourage the ladies out there, if you, whether for yourself or for your daughters or your nieces or whoever, or the girls next door, get them involved with Ontario Women Anglers and jump on Ladies Night when it's on, because I'm sure I notice it. The viewership goes way up on Ladies Night. Like, the ladies bring the views, man. They do. Like, they are great. They are awesome.
On that note, Jay, and I know Steve's in the audience, and he can attest to this. If there is anything that I can honestly say when it comes to young ladies, whether we're at the Cassie Pond at the Ottawa show, whether we're at Jim's event, whether we're at any of the other kids' events that we help participate in or host, I would have to say a tip of the hat to the young ladies. There's not as many of that concern, or at least they're not showing the concerns of the anxiety, the shyness. These young ladies, they get their hands dirty. They don't have any problem carrying fish, and they are just as gung-ho and competitive as some of the dudes. So the fact that this is a dude-only sport, I don't think so. From what I can say, and I'm sure Steve will jump in here and attest, the ladies got it going on, and as you just mentioned, in more ways than one. Yeah,
I am in awe by their passion, man. Like, and they are so welcoming to everyone. And I will fault a lot of anglers that I know personally who are not the most welcoming of people to the sport. They're I don't know if it's their ego or their attitude or all the above, but it's like, but a lot of the ladies out there are so welcoming to the sport for everyone. And some of my favorite anglers to follow online are the ladies. Christine Fisher, love the message she preaches. I like it's not just her abilities. She's proven she's a great angler, but the message that she brings just to the community itself and the positivity, like, dude, that gets me every time. I love it. Like, that's the stuff that fills my cup when it comes to fishing, right? So
Barb she carries that torch for me. I got a big spot in my heart for that woman. She is amazing. Some of the stuff that she's got herself into, and now she's a full-fledged charter captain with a massive boat, and I'm in awe with what Barb does. She's absolutely amazing. Eve, thanks so much for this. South Nation River Conservation Authority is organizing some kids event at different Nation River parks, boat ramp during the summer. That's cool. If you have a link, Eve, by all means, make sure you post that in the comments, carrying right along, because of course there's quite a few other events upcoming. This is the summer event that the St. Catharines group host. This is an online event, if I'm not mistaken. There is a day event, and then they have an online aspect of it. But again, the St. Catharines folks are very, very busy making sure that they are, adhering to what we're saying tonight and getting as many young kids involved as possible. So make sure you see that link if you have a child and you're down in the St. Catharines area. Awesome to be a part of that event. Then the Erie Bassmasters, and I think this is what Sparkus was talking about. These are all of the events that are going on. Cody Koufax, if I'm not mistaken, is the one that sort of organizes all this down at Rondo Bay and, of course, Mitchell's Bay. There's 3 areas that your kids can get involved. This is a competitive side of angling. Of course,
Yeah.
do you introduce that, Jay, initially, or do you just got to get a rod in their hand? What's your take on that?
I think you just got to get a rod in their hand at first, because I'll give full credit to Cody and the programs he's running with the Erie Youth Club. Like, it is, I love what he's doing, and I help out every chance I get. If I'm not busy working and there's an event going on, I put it in the calendar because I just enjoy going down. And a lot of my helping is just with the weigh-in. One thing though about the Bass Club, the Bass program, that I think a lot of folks need to realize, and this isn't meant to be a negative. Me just having kids that love fishing, what the big thing to realize is that because of the competitive nature of it, it is really good that kids are already into fishing before they take the leap into competitive angling. And I'm speaking to you as a parent who has had kids who play like sports. And, I'll use the analogy of maybe hockey or baseball, where, you have sort of house league and then you have like rep. And the Bass clubs, the Bass Master Youth programs, they're really built around like that sort of not rep level. I'm not trying to put them as better anglers, but they've sort of gone, a lot of those kids have gone through the ranks a bit, where they've had to learn to be competitive, because it is competitive. They're still learning. They're still having fun. The faces on all the kids is amazing, but it's good that they have some basic skills of fishing before they try to make that leap into a Bass Club. Once they get into the Bass Club, they will learn. The learning curve is steep, but I have never met a kid that can't handle it.
Yeah.
But definitely, don't just sign them up for a Bass Club right away. The proving ground for a lot of these young anglers, to me, is get them out to these kids events that have prizes. That there's still competitions. Like a lot of the kids events I go to, as much as it is fun, there's like biggest rock bass, biggest largemouth, there's sort of these prizes, and it gives you a little bit of a sense of the kids want to win, they want to do well, you can sort of assess how are their abilities, and then if they need to work on something, take them out fishing. That's your job as a parent. Get them out fishing, practice more with them, and then maybe get them involved in some of these competitive fishing clubs if they want to. But it can also be a little hard if you push them too fast. That's just my personal opinion. So
Agreed.
Having kids myself, and I know so many young anglers too that have really had a hard time grasping that competition side of it, right? So, but some people take to it easily, and it's a lot of fun. It really is.
100%. So again, these are the dates for, as Jay would put it, the rep anglers of our young next generation of anglers. If you're looking for a competitive aspect to fishing, now that you've enjoyed and the passion has been, it's taken hold inside you, these are some of the events that you could participate in. Obviously, there's a bunch of them that certain clubs put on. We're not going to get to here, but we will certainly do our best to make sure that we bring it to light. Wishing I Was Fishing. This is something that our good buddy Dave Gillis and his wife Sarah do. That is out in the Saskatchewan area. A lot of CFNers are involved in this event each and every year. It's basically to help the inner youth, those kids that are in the inner cities that don't have the opportunity to get out fishing. They may have had a horrid upbringing to this point. Wishing I Was Fishing is something that is in memory of young Brad Gillis, who unfortunately took his life, and Dave and Sarah are making sure that they are remembering everything about Brad and what he loved about fishing, and making sure that they pass that on to some other young anglers, so that they don't go down that dark pathway, that they have an outlet, they have a means of escape, because it is definitely something that you and I have talked about at great length. So a big shout out to all the CFNers that are a part of Wishing I Was Fishing. And of course, then there's the Youth Fishing League. And this is something that has grown. Holy crap, has it grown. And you talk about House League. I think that is a great segue to explain what this league is like. This is like the house league of fishing. Your kids can participate, they can compete, they can explore and enlarge their passion for angling. But it is a great outlet. Our good buddy Mike Sklad has a host of volunteers that have stepped up in a huge way. And as you can see, there's more than one venue for all this. We just managed to download the one from Facebook in regards to the Youth Fishing League out in Kingston, but there's a whole bunch of other venues as well, Jay. And I know you've been a part of this in a small extent as well.
Yeah, this is one of those programs that I tell Mike all the time when I see him, that I wish I had more time in the summer. I'm just so busy with my full-time job. This is like something I'd like to do when I retire, is to get more involved with the Youth Fishing League. A mutual friend of ours, Mike Howard, reached out to me on the weekend. Mike's starting a league out of Norwich, just north of Delhi. And he's going to be, we were talking about spots locally. What's great about the Youth Fishing League, so in comparison to Bassmasters, where you basically need a boat, you need boat captains. And there's so many great volunteers that Cody has, like Sparkus, Alicia, and TJ, and others that take the kids out. But in the Youth Fishing League, it's all very shore-based, which is great. So you can, and I know several kids fishing clubs in Ontario that are shore-based. You don't need a boat to participate. And so they're encouraged to, and I think that also Youth Fishing League, one of the requirements is you have to have a parent with you, which is one, smart from insurance standpoint, but two, it's also, it gets parents or guardians involved and engaged with the process as well. And so it's really, if you just want to get someone into fishing and you don't have a boat and you're looking for something local, reach out to the Youth Fishing League. They got programs now all across Southern Ontario. And they have, I believe that the events, now each league will have their own events and their own dates and things like that. So you need to check out their website or their Facebook page to figure out where and when. But everything's very simple. It's very inclusive. There's two different age groups. The junior division is 5 to 10. The senior division is 11 to 16. No experience required though. So just come on out. Yeah, and there's junior times and senior times. And each league has their own location and their own areas to fish in. So yeah, if you want to get someone into fishing, check out. And yeah, I believe, Sonia, that's Mike Sklad. That's who's the coordinator of that program. But each local group has a representative. Like Mike Howard's doing one locally here. And I know that Richard Elliott is doing one up at Teeswater. So, and there's all kinds of people working on them right now. So Mike will get you in touch with the local person or group that is in your area.
That's awesome. And then, of course, last but not least, this is something that we've been doing ever since CFN has been around. It is the CFN Fish Off. It is an online tournament that is done each and every year. This year, it's going to be Canada Day to Labor Day. It is free to enter. Shimano has given up some great prizes in the past and continue to do so again this year. Mike and the judges and myself were honored to be a part of it, as we are every year. Last year, we saw numbers that we've never seen before in terms of the number of fish caught, the number of participants. We were well over 5,000, and the number of fish was off the charts. So we are expecting the same this year, although because of, I would say, its popularity, we decided to branch out and create other aspects of it. And of course, Shimano stepped up with the Comp Break Conquer Challenge, which we're going to be announcing this week. Some great stuff. So as I said, we are certainly doing, and when I say we, all of us here are doing some great work to get kids fishing and make sure that we see the same things at our fishing shows as the Europeans did this past winter. So some good stuff that's going on. There was one other thing that I wanted to bring up too that don't know if I'm going to have access to it. I was I was hoping to upload it, but there is a really cool thing talking about Richard Elliott. That's what made me think of it. I want to say this is it here, but I don't know. It's not cropped properly, so I apologize for that. But this is something that I think we should bring to light. It is Fish City, and it is happening, I believe, this week.
World. It sits right on Lake. There is a fish city living in the waters near this nuclear power plant. Bruce Power in Ontario is one of the largest nuclear generating stations in the world. It sits right on Lake Huron, and the warm water created during its operation flows right into the lake. That means that the water around Bruce Power is alive with fish activity, even in the winter.
No way.
We're talking everything from schools of minnows and shad to buffalo fish, walleye, salmon, catfish, smallmouth bass, all congregating in this tiny pocket of Lake Huron. And if you want to see it for yourself, you're in luck. Great Lakes Now is teaming up with Inspired Planet to present Fish City, a live-streamed exploration of this remarkable spot. Check it out on April 22nd, Earth Day at 10 a.m.
That is cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. That looks, the footage alone, because we know how crystal clear those waters are up there, and hopefully it remains that way for the event. But I would expect to see a plethora of species that are.
Yeah, I threw a Facebook link in the chat for folks that are online. Ontario Out of Doors posted a link today about this event, and you can click on it and you can see some of the cool still images of the different fish. So it's very cool, man. Very cool. And I sent that picture to a few friends of mine because I want to see who picked up on all the buffalo in those images. If you click on the link, you can see there's one image that's mostly buffalo. There's a couple of drum and I think a carp in the background, maybe a red horse. It's hard to see. It's in the background, but so many buffalo right there hanging out at the Bruce Nuclear. And I know that we might be giving away one of Richard's secret fishing spots, so I just might want to keep that. So everyone who's on the call, just
it's funny. You and I think the exact same way, Jay. I'm thinking, if I'm not mistaken, this is where Richard spends a lot of his time, and I think they're just going to blow up his fishing spot. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. So Sonia, I think it's going to be on Earth Day. In the video, it talked about Earth Day, which is what is Earth Day? Is that today? No,
I believe it's tomorrow. 20 seconds tomorrow, is it not? No, it's Wednesday. Sorry, Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday, the 22nd. The link is here. If you want to see all the wonderful stuff that Jay and I are talking about, by all means, that's the link you need to go to. And hopefully you will be just like us, excited to see all of the Finn characters that show up in front of the camera. Looking forward to it. Jay, as always, my friend, thanks so much for all of your time. Before we go, though, is there anything else that I missed that we didn't talk about tonight?
I'm going to show you one picture, and then it's kind of then we'll sign it off. So I know you're always asking what I've been up to. So this was us on Friday. The gentleman on the right here, that's Erling Holm. He's the retired assistant curator of ichthyology at the Royal Ontario Museum. And this was on Friday. There was a fish ID workshop the ROM holds every year, and this one was in Guelph. And on Friday, Trevor and I and a couple of other friends from Fisheries and Oceans, we went to Guelph, and we actually taught how to use a seine net to the participants. And if it wasn't for my son, the high water, we had a heck of a time trying to fish a seine net in that high water. And I'll give him the kudos. So we caught a few fish. I'll click through. This is just on LinkedIn. So I'll give him credit. He found this school of suckers hanging out in this basically a brook trout stream, but the water was high. And so to catch them, instead of just, with a seine, you're going to fish it in a circle. Well, we couldn't do that because it was too fast. So we held the seine in the water like a big kick seine, and then I had all the participants push the fish to us and then scoop them up. And Trevor saw all these suckers in a big log jam, and he went up there stomping around. I think he's got a hole in his waders now, though. And we caught these suckers, but we got some Johnny Darters,
Wow.
and some stickleback, and a central mud minnow.
Wow.
And yeah, sucker again. So it was just a fun day, and we're not fishing, but it was great to spend some time with Trevor. And now you can see he's sporting his Trent University shirt because he's pretty proud of his going to Trent this fall. And so this event every year is full of people learning fish ID from different walks of life, right? There are consultants, there's agency staff. And so it was pretty cool for Trevor to see Trevor interacting with like others in my field. Scotty, does that make sense? Like,
Absolutely.
So he's just being a young professional now. It's kind of, it's almost a little sad for a dad to see him like being a nice young man and talking to others, talking shop with other fisheries professionals. So, but yeah, just a fun day, really memorable day to have.
Wow.
I had to share that picture.
So you went from the picture of him on the pier in diapers,
Yeah,
to there showing how to use a seine. I mean, dude,
basically,
folks, you're crying. I'm not crying.
it's quite the transition to watch him, and and even to, like, if you go like, so if you're, dude, you've grown up in this field, right? So when you start out in the field, if it wasn't for people sort of not like literally reaching out, like in a crowd being like, hey, I'm so-and-so, what's your name and where are you from? And so you go to a workshop and you're like, oh, I'm from Ottawa and I'm a consultant, or I'm from here and I do this. And listening to Trevor talk about, he knows where he stands. He knows he's a high school student. He's a co-op student. He's going to Trent in the fall. A lot of the people at this course they're graduates. There's some people there doing their PhD work, master's work. Some of them they're professionals, they're consultants or what have you. And seeing him interact in that arena. So we're not talking fishing, we're talking fisheries, right? So that was pretty cool. Like, yeah. So that was a big thing on Friday. And he's helped out with that event before, but dude, he was like this tall, and I have photos of him, when he was like 12 helping out with this course. I've taken him a couple times, but this is one of the first times where he was physically, like, he was helping me be the instructor. Does that make sense? And that was very cool. So yeah, very awesome experience.
I bet, dude. It's awesome just hearing about it. That's so cool. Yeah. Well, Jay, go wipe your tears, and we will make sure that we look forward to seeing and hearing from you next week. But as always, pal, thanks for bringing attention to things that need to be brought attention to. And one thing especially we can't talk enough about on this show or any other platform for that matter is the need to get kids fishing. So good on you, pal, because you hit it out of the park.
Man.
Young Trevor.
And if things go well, you'll see me next week in a hotel room, not in my home office. So we'll see. If I should have been out this week in the field, but the high water has delayed that start. So I expect next Monday I will be out and about starting my annual trips around Ontario. So we'll see. All right.
You take care of yourself. All the best, Jay.
Everybody. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, there it is, the end of our show. And again, it's all about bringing light to things that we need to talk about. Obviously, what was going on out on the West Coast and the salmon fishery with Lawrence. We missed Jim tonight. He had a busy day. And of course, Jay, I think it's really important that we really push these kids events and take notice of what work is being done by the volunteers and those who are hosting it, because it's not easy. It's not easy, getting prizes, making sure kids have rods, this, that, everything else. And of course, CFN is going to help out in a big way in the coming years with the Derby on Wheels, where if you have the kids, you have the venue, we'll bring the means and make sure that we help you folks out to make sure that whatever experience these kids have is A1. With that, I want you guys all to have a wonderful week. Enjoy yourselves out there. Make sure that you stay away from all that fast-moving water. Don't get caught up on it. It's not going to be easy because any river in Ontario, especially right now, is raging. But with that, get out. Take a kid fishing. Take a kid fishing. I can't emphasize that enough because you never know. There is another Trevor waiting in the weeds. All the best. Love you guys. You take care. As I said, have a wonderful week. Dave, take us away. Cheers.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end.